Hello class. Okay, in this particular video, this is part 2 of a 3-part series where the first part was just what is a scatter plot. This one is how do I graph a scatter plot and create one. And then the third video, which will be the next one, is how do I deal with a trend line? How do I create one of those and do the math involved with that? Okay, so in this video, it's going to be a relatively short one. All I want to do is show you how to graph a scatter plot. In this particular question, it says a history teacher asked her students how many hours of sleep they had the night before a test. The data below shows the number of hours the students slept and their score on the exam. Plot the data on the scatter plot. So in this particular problem, this teacher is trying to see, is there a relationship between the number of hours slept before a test and the grade on the test? So this teacher collected some data, collected the hours of sleep of each of the students, and then recorded the grade that the student made on the test. So we graph the data to see if there is a relationship. So you'll notice in this one we created a graph that our independent is the hours of sleep and our dependent is what grade they made on the test. Okay, so what we do is, since each one of those students is a data point, we graph that data. So this first one says there's 8 hours and they made an 83 on the test. So we come up here to about 83 and we put a dot. Okay, then we do the same thing for the rest of them. 786, 774, 888, 676, 563, 790, 460, 989, and 781. So there is our data. Now, what we're trying to determine, does numbers of hours of sleep, the greater amount of sleep you receive, does that produce a higher test score? Well, if we look at the data, okay, there is a general trend of the data going uphill. Okay, so what we have a tendency of wanting to do when we have a scatter plot, or what we want to do, is we want to try to interpret this. And we interpret it so that we can make predictions. So it looks like the data is going up. Matter of fact, it kind of looks like there might be a line that kind of goes right through the middle, just like that. That would be what we would call in the next video a trend line, okay, or a line of best fit. Now using that information, I then can determine, well, what if somebody slept for 10 hours? What do you think they could get? Or what about 11 hours or 12 hours? Okay, now, granted, there are other variables that go into this test score, but this teacher is just trying to determine, does more sleep produce higher test grades? So in this one, if they had 10 hours, what could we assume? Well, maybe, a 95 to 100. Or what about 11 hours? Well, they might make a 105, something like that. Okay, so that's basically what we're looking at whenever we want to create a scatter plot, is we collect data on what we think will prove our hypothesis. We graph the data and try to determine, is there any correlation in our data? So until next time.